We now welcome Cuban analyst Reinaldo Taladrid. Reinaldo, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure to be with you.
We've seen what we can describe as unprecedented scenes in the United States today. Unprecedented for the United States, however, not scenes that are unusual in other parts of the world. What are your thoughts on what we've seen today?
I don't agree totally with that vision that many people repeat today, because in Michigan, just 2 months ago, we saw exactly the same. Pro-Trump's armed militias took the Capitol Hill in Michigan, in the capital of the state, and tried to kidnap Michigan governor. The same kind of people who today took over the Capitol Hill in Washington. Today, there was another incident in Los Angeles. Pro-Trump people go to the streets to protest and to confront people. In Miami, this morning, the Cubans for Trump caravan start in Doral and try to reach Café Versailles, insulting journalists and saying similar things. So first, it's not only in Washington. Second, this happened before in recent months in the States. I got some news for you. The woman shot in the Capitol amid violent breach of the complex has died. So we got one, at least the first one dead. A woman who was part of the protesters who entered at the Capitol Hill. Second, at the same moment that Joe Biden was addressing the nation from Delaware, calling that an insurrection, Jon Ossoff, the Democratic candidate, was declared officially the winner of the second Georgia Senate runoff. So at the same time that Biden was talking to the nation, at the same time Georgia electoral authorities declared Jon Ossoff winner, and now the Democratic Party won both elections in the state of Georgia and has the control of the Senate. Another news that I got here for you. In Pennsylvania, this morning, there was a similar incident when the Republican state legislators avoid that a Democrat that was elected in the last election take a seat in Pennsylvania, Capitol Hill. And there were violence, there were insults. So in Pennsylvania, this morning, we have a similar incident. Texas Republican Party removed officer who cheered on mob. And this is very curious because some people are asking one question in different. I read this question I'm going to tell you, to share with you, in different media, in different social media interchange today. What happened? Did the police react with the same level of force of reaction against left protesters, Black Lives Matter protesters, that right-wing protesters? For example, a journalist from the New York Times wrote in the blog 538 that the New York Times shared. She wrote, I cover for the newspaper the Minneapolis protest. And I cannot be honest if I say to you that I noticed today a different reaction from the police, from some members of the police against Trump protesters, than the one that I saw in Minneapolis against left-wing and the Black Lives Matter movement protesters. And some people ask the same question, what happened if people from the Black Lives Matter movement breach the Capitol Hill and try to enter the Capitol Hill? Because some people are questioning how is possible that the Capitol Hill, with the National Guard on alert, with the Metropolitan Police on alert in the state of in D.C. since yesterday, with all the people knowing that there are a lot of white supremacists inside the manifestator, with the leader of the white supremacist group, Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio, a Cuban American from Miami, arrested yesterday by the D.C. police. How is possible that this happened? How is possible that people can breach so easily inside the Capitol Hill, enter and occupy the Senate floor, the House floor. How is that possible? How is that possible? The Vice President was there. Secret Service protection was there. The city was in a state of alert. There were incidents yesterday, I repeat, and that happened. Some people are questioning that. And the other news I want to share with you is that some Democrats are already calling for impeach Trump. It's normal that this happened. They are calling for impeach Trump for treason. In that case, it's for treason. Traición in Spanish, treason. And what will happen? Some people say, well, it's not intelligent, it's not logical to make an impeachment for treason with just 14 days in office. But this is so unusual for the classical establishment political class in America. The Capitol Hill occupied by right-wing protesters that nobody knows. For example, another news that I got here, Fraternal Order of Police calls on Trump to forcefully urge supporters to disperse because police didn't want to be associated with other things. As you see, some people in the police, not the whole police. It's very important to make the difference. Now we have one dead. Nobody knows what will happen. And the most important, the reaction of Donald J. Trump. This is a very personal issue in some aspects, not in all. Trump already made a Twitter expressing his opinion that Vice President Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what he must do at the Capitol Hill. So even it seems that Pence break with his president in that issue. What will happen with Donald J. Trump tomorrow? What will happen when the Congress certify the Electoral College results, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, but they will certify Joe Biden's victory, Electoral College result? What will happen? Nothing. Nothing will be a signal for what happened. Nobody, this idea to impeach Trump will have a possibility or not. There will be interest question for the next 24 hours. This is so unusual what is happening inside Capitol Hill in Washington. Not a surprise, but very unusual that we need to wait. We need to make more questions and see what will happen.
Reinaldo, you've made some very important points there which have been echoed by other analysts and one of our guests earlier, precisely the point of the reaction of security forces to the Trump protesters compared to the reaction from security forces when, for example, the Black Lives Matter movement mobilizes in the United States. We expect that within 2 weeks, Joe Biden will be president of the United States. But however, as we've seen today, and as we've seen for several months, if not longer, there is huge tension in the United States at the domestic level. There are huge divisions in the United States. Do you think Biden can be capable of reuniting Americans?
For example, some important classical establishment Republican politicians, Mitt Romney, George W. Bush, they made a statement condemning what happened today. And of course, when the ceremony of the ratification of the Electoral College vote started, Mitch McConnell, the ultra-conservative leader of the Republicans in the Senate, made a speech in which he opposed totally to the attempt to reverse the results of the election. So I think that the classical establishment inside the Republican Party will make all the possible to avoid a division inside the Republican Party, that this incident will continue occupying the first pages of every newspaper in the world, maybe, and in the States at least, and they will make a big effort. They condemn Romney, McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, the leader of the Republicans in the House, also called Trump And in Fox News, he said the president needs to order these people to stand down, to retire. Even Marco Rubio said this is not American, it's anti-American what they are doing. Don't forget, some of these people are thinking in 2024, and some of them have aspirations in 2024, and the reaction will be mixed. But I insist. Kevin McCarthy, for example, the California Republican leader in the House, this is so un-American. I condemn any of this violence. But don't forget, this is very personal. Now Trump is alone. He's alone in the Republican Party. What happened with the 140? Trump is saying at this moment, I am asking for everyone to stop the violence. But is Trump alone? Even Mike Pence break with him is a big question. Nobody knows exactly what will happen. What the most important Republican politicians will do, they already condemn that. They cannot support Trump in that. What will happen in these 14 days? Did let Trump to finish, or the idea to impeach him for treason will go on? Nobody knows what happened. Really, it's so an issue that nobody knows what happened. But the truth is that 74 million Americans vote for Donald Trump. And the overwhelming majority of these 74 million people follow him, believe in him, and everybody agree that the only person who can control or say something to this kind of people is only Donald Trump, is the President Donald Trump. So this is a very complex puzzle with many pieces, and we need to follow the news, we need to follow the events, because it's a real passage to the unknown.
Reinaldo, I have a tweet here from Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders has tweeted saying that the man directly responsible for the chaos of today is Donald Trump, who's made it clear that he will do anything to remain in power, including insurrection and inciting violence. Bernie Sanders says that Trump will go down in history as the worst and most dangerous president in US history. What do you think?
What happened if the Bernie Sanders side, the progressive side of the Democratic Party, in a manifestation, breach in any institution of the U.S. government? What happened in that case? It's a fair question to be asked, between many questions in this incredible story that we are following. Of course, Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and this side of the Democratic Party will ask for responsibilities, will signal Trump personally, or they will try to dilute the responsibility of what happened today, or they say, gentlemen, it's only 14 days, let's try to forget that and think in the future, reconciliation, etc. But nobody knows what will prevail, because this is totally unusual.
Reinaldo, looking ahead to the fact that Joe Biden is expected to be inaugurated within 2 weeks, and the fact that we are seeing these ongoing tensions within the United States, what do you think we can expect from Joe Biden in terms of trying to unite Americans, but also beyond the United States itself? What differences can we actually expect from Joe Biden in terms of US foreign policy compared to Trump, who, as he's been aggressive domestically, has been incredibly aggressive on a foreign level? Well,
foreign policy is not one of the main concerns of the people who are in the Capitol Hill today. Everybody who knows the states and the elections and the issues know that foreign policy is not a very important issue, with some exceptions in some moments, like in Iraq, 2014, the war in Iraq, or Vietnam, or some exceptions. Second, Biden will have now majority, a very slim majority, but majority at least, in the Senate and in the House. First, they will approve their nominations. That's a very important step for him. Second, he needs to present the more bills he could in the first 2 years, and take advantage that he will have a slim majority in the Senate and in the House. I mean slim because, for example, there are some Democratic senators from the Midwest that in some issues or some bills that Biden will present will vote with Republicans for the content of the issue, maybe in the healthcare discussions or in Roe versus Wade discussion, the abortion. And there are some Democrats from the Midwest and from the South who are very conservative also. And it would be very difficult for Biden. Foreign policy maybe has a breach, let's say that, because now both committees, Foreign Affairs Committee in the Senate and in the House, will be presided by Democrats. But we need to see which Democrats will preside both committees and what their goals are in different issues. There are people who have very personal agenda in the U.S. policy regarding their constituencies in their states. If you have an Iranian community in your state, your position to Iran will be different in many aspects to somebody who doesn't have that in his constituency. That's very important in American politics. So Biden will have a very, very uphill job to do. Biden will have the nation divided. The origins of this division are very long ago in the lack of credibility of the political system with the people, the Congress, the media. All this was in a process during years of losing credibility with people. People feel forget for all this institution in Washington for years. And that's the origin of this, let's say, disengagement from many people, millions of people in the state with the institutions. In the Democratic Party, we see that with the left wing, in the left wing of the Democratic Party, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, other young representative, Bernie Sanders, are the expression of that in the Democratic Party. And in the Republican Party, Donald Trump was the answer, the expression of this loss of confidence, disengagement of millions of Americans with their institutions, their politicians, their system. So I think it's a very deep crisis, politically, socially. It's very interesting, not only economically, but politically and socially also. And it would be very difficult, very, very difficult to convince these 74 million people who they need to reconcile with American traditions, with American values. They are convinced, and they are right. They are convinced that the press is the enemy of the people. And the politicians in Washington all are traitors, the swamp, as Trump used to call it. So how you do that? It would be very, very difficult. At the same time, Republicans will be thinking more in 2022 and 2024 that in this noble goals of reconcile the nation. Many of them will be thinking what would be the best for me, for my interests, looking at the elections in 2024, in the case I will go, or in case I have some aspirations for the White House in 2024. Many put this first and the other issues second. So it will be very, very complicated.
Reinaldo Taladrid, Cuban journalist and political analyst, thank you so much for joining us and for offering your valuable insight into what's happening in the United States. Thank you.